Good afternoon and welcome to video number 30 for National Bookstore's #Read Out Loud Challenge. For every 75 videos uploaded of people reading aloud an excerpt from a book, National Bookstore has pledged to set up one library. For today, this Friday in the season of the Spirit, allow me to read to you two more excerpts from the very same book, Jesus, the Son of Man, by Khalil Gibran. In particular, the two excerpts I will be reading for you are the fictional accounts, of a man who was acquitted and who still bears the guilt of the acquittal, and a man whose life got touched by Jesus Christ but by only a moment. And that moment stayed with him for the rest of his life. For the first one, for the acquittal, the account of Barabas, on the last words of Jesus. They released me and chose him. Then he rose and I fell down. And they held him a victim and a sacrifice for the Passover. I was freed from my chains and walked with the throng behind him, but I was a living man going to my own grave. I should have fled to the desert, where the sun can burn out shame. Yet, I walked with those who had chosen him to bear my crime. When they nailed him on his cross, I stood there. I saw and I heard, but I seemed outside my body. The thief who was crucified on his right said to him, "Are you bleeding with me? Even you, Jesus of Nazareth?" And Jesus answered and said, "Were it not for this nail that stays my hand, I would reach forth and clasp your hand. We are crucified together. Would they had raised your cross nearer to mine." Then he looked down and gazed upon his mother and a young man who stood beside her. He said, "Mother, behold your son standing beside you. Woman, behold a man who shall carry these drops of my blood to the north country." And when he heard the wailing of the women of Galilee, he said, "Behold, they weep, and I thirst. I am held too high to reach their tears. I will not take vinegar and gall to quench this thirst." Then his eyes opened wide to the sky, and he said, "Father, why hast thou forsaken us?" And then he said in compassion, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." When he uttered these words, methought I saw all men prostrated before God, beseeching forgiveness for the crucifixion of this one man. Then he said with a great voice, "Father, into thy hand I yield back my spirit." And at last he lifted up his head and said, "Now it is finished, but only upon this hill." And so he closed his eyes. Then lightning cracked the dark skies, and there was a great thunder. I now know that those who slew him in my stead achieved my endless torment. His crucifixion endured but for an hour, but I shall be crucified unto the end of my days. And for the man whose life was changed but in a moment. Simon of Cyrene. I was on my way to the fields when I saw him carrying his cross, and multitudes were following him. Then I too walked beside him. His burden stopped him many a time, for his body was exhausted. Then a Roman soldier approached me, saying, "Come, you are strong and firm built. Carry the cross of this man." When I heard these words, my heart swelled within me, and I was grateful. And I carried his cross. It was heavy, for it was made of poplar, soaked through with the rains of winter. And Jesus looked at me, and the sweat of his forehead was running down upon his beard. Again, he looked at me and he said, "Do you too drink this cup? You shall indeed sip its rim with me until the end of time." So saying, he placed his hand upon my free shoulder, and we walked together towards the hill of the skull. But now I felt not the weight of the cross. I felt only his hand, and it was like the wing of a bird upon my shoulder. Then we reached the hilltop, and there they were to crucify him. And then I felt the weight of the tree. He uttered no word when they drove the nails into his hands and feet, nor made he any sound. And his limbs did not quiver under the hammer. It seemed as if his hands and feet had died and would only live again when bathed in blood. Yet it seemed also as if he sought the nails as the prince would seek the scepter, and that he craved to be raised to the heights. And my heart did not think to pity him, for I too was filled with wonder. Now the man whose cross I carried, he has become my cross. Should they say to me again, "Carry the cross of this man," I would carry it till my road ended at the grave. But I would beg him to place his hand upon my shoulder. This happened many, many years ago. And still, whenever I follow the furrow in the field, and in that drowsy moment, before I sleep, I think always of that beloved man. And I feel his winged hand here on my left shoulder. The accounts of Barabas, a thief, and Simon of Cyrene. Thank you so much for joining me for video number 30 of National Bookstore's #Read Out Loud Challenge. Please do join me. It's for an excellent cause, and we do sincerely look forward to watching the rest of your own uploads. Thank you so much. Have a very meaningful, a very reflective, and yes, a very blessed Friday.